Hey everyone, welcome to Data Millennials. I'm Atul. In this video, we are going to discuss how we can use an NARY max function using calculated field in Looker or Google Data Studio. So as you can see here in my raw data, I have a list of columns which shows the sales in millions for different region. So I have region 1, region 2, region 3. So these are the sales in millions in different region, as well as I have the cost of different regions. So this cost is the cost of selling the item in different region on a day-to-day basis. As you can see over here, I have dates, and this raw data shows on a day-to-day basis what is the sales for region 1, region 2, region 3, and so on. Similarly, I have the record for cost also against each date, that what is the cost against each date against each region. Now suppose you want to determine the maximum sales for your 6th region by date, then how you can do it. And let's take one more example, or another ask is to find the whether the cost is higher of the day or the sales is higher of a certain date, then how we can show it on our dashboard. So in this video, we'll create this table, and then we are going to apply or use the NARY max function as a calculated field in our charts or table from scratch, so that you can get awareness or idea that when, where, and how we can apply this NARY max function using the calculated field, which will help us to find whether the cost is higher for a particular day or the sales is higher. Now before we use this NARY max function, we need to understand what exactly this function is. So it's an arithmetic function in Looker which returns the maximum value of the input arguments. It is similar to max, except it allows you to compare multiple values. So when you use a max function, you can give certain number of arguments, but over here the NARY max function allows you to compare multiple values. And now if we talk about the syntax of this function, then you can see that we have the function over here and we have the argument over here. So now let's go and create a calculated field using this NARY max function. So to do that, what we need to do is that we need to click on edit button, and then we need to create a new page in which we can use this function with a calculated field. So I'll click on page and click on new page. Now if I go back to my page 1, I can copy these headers and put it over here. Let me increase the size of these two. Okay, now the first thing that we're gonna do is that we are gonna check day on day sales versus cost, which one is the highest. So to do that, we need to add a table over here, and you can go to add a chart and select a table, and you can put it over here. The moment you will select a table, Looker will basically take a default data source and reflect the data on your table using the default metrics as well as the dimension. So for us, we have data source over here, which is this data source. So we do not need to change the data source, but if you want to change the data source, then you can come over here under the setup section, and you can either edit the data source or you can select the data source based on your requirement. We'll keep the data source as it is. Now for us, the first dimension needs to be date, because we need to compare the maximum value of sale or cost against each date, right? So for metric, what we need to do is that we need to create two matrices using the calculated field to get the maximum value of sales from these columns, from these 6 regions, and we need to get the maximum value of cost from these 6 regions. Okay, so I'm going to click on add metric, then I'm going to click on create field. Then the first thing that I need to put is the name of the field. So I'm going to put highest underscore cost, and I'm going to put the formula over here. So for formula, I'm going to put NARY. The moment you will start typing the formula, that you will see that you have two options over here. One is minimum, second is maximum. Over here we are discussing maximum, so we'll take this, but with this formula We'll be discussing it in our next video. So we'll select this max, and within this bracket we need to give the field's name. So I'm going to select all of these fields at once, and I'm going to copy this. I will simply paste it over here, and after pasting it I will just add comma after each and every field. So yes, I need to put comma over here, and over here. Okay, now if I click on apply, you will see that Looker will start calculating it in the background, and it will reflect the data once the calculation is completed, and you will see that you have the value over here. Let me remove this record count from metrics, and you will see over here for 13th September we have the highest cost as 1904. Now if I go back to my raw data, and if I filter out for 13th September over here in date, okay, 13th September, and if I check which one is the highest or the maximum within the cost columns from region 1 to region 6, you will see that you have the max value as 1904, which is region 3 cost in USD million, 1904. And over here in your dashboard you have the highest cost 1904 for 13 September. Now similarly, if I want to add the highest value of the sales, then what I can do is that I can create another calculated field which is highest of the sale. So I can come over here and click on add metric, then I can click on create a field, and I will say sales underscore highest, and then in this formula I'll put NA, and you will see that you have this function over here. You can select this and you can give the list of arguments, which is the field from which you want to compare and get the highest values. And now I'm just going to put commas over here, and then I will click on apply. Now if I click anywhere in my blank page, I will see that I have two columns. One is highest cost and second is sales highest, and I can compare the values. So for 13th September we have highest cost as 1904 while the highest sale is 1912. So this 1912 must be of a certain region, right? Now if I come back to my raw data for 13th September, which we had filtered earlier, and if I see the sales value, which one is the highest, then I can see my max value is 1912, and 1912 is for region 4. So that's why we are seeing this sales highest 1912 over here. Now as we talked about this graph in the starting of our video, is that we can use calculated field with NARY max function in graphs also, and that is what we are going to do in our page 2. We are going to add a graph over here, and we are going to use calculated fields to reflect the highest cost and highest sales within a graph to compare, right? In order to add a graph, you can come to add a chart, and then you can select any of the graph, but I'll select time series chart over here, as I need to compare day on day highest cost and highest sales value. Now when I've selected this, then by default Looker has taken certain dimensions and matrices, and so right now in our graph I can see only 13th September because I have selected it over here. If I unselect it or click on it back, then you will see that all the data are appearing over here. Now I need to remove certain dimension which has been selected or matrices over here which has been selected by default, but for me right now the dimension is date, which I need to keep, so I'll keep date as it is. But for metrics I need to add the calculated field for the sales value as well as the cost value. So I'm gonna add a new metric using the calculated field. So I'll click on create field, I'll say the name cost highest, and then I'm going to put the formula, which is NAR y underscore max, and within this bracket I'm going to take all the fields and I'm going to put it over here. After putting these fields, I need to put comma also, so I'm going to put comma, and then I'll click on apply. Similarly, I'm going to add another calculated field with the sales, so I'll put sales underscore highest, and then again I'm going to put NARY underscore max. I'm going to put all the fields. After that, I'm just going to put comma again, and then I'll click on apply. Now you can see that we have graph over here, but we have an additional matrices, which is record count, so I'm going to remove it. Now you have cost versus sales, but this doesn't look similar to this graph which we had on page 1, because right now we had not given data points and all that. So I'm going to select this graph, and then I'm going to click on style. I'll keep line for series, then I'm going to change this series color as red, show points and show data label, which will show the data label as well as the show points. Similarly for series 2, I'll put as color black, then show points and show data label. Now if I click on view, you will see that we have somewhat similar or almost similar, except the color of this line in the graph which we had created. So this is how basically you can return the maximum value of the arguments using calculated field in Looker with the help of NARY max. Happy learning and see you in the next video.